Well, there we go. Hey, thanks for being here today. Ed Parcaut, host of Real Estate Jerky radio show and also the live. And I'm here with Bobby Atkins. Hello, Bobby.
How you doing this morning, Ed?
Doing great. So we do this about twice a week, I think now, Tuesdays and Thursdays around this time. We try to do it about 9:45, but sometimes other work gets in the way. So and today's show is, and it was brought up because one of my clients sent a thing to me saying, how do I maximize my house listing price? They want to know how to maximize it before they put it on the market, what they can do to get the best price. So I asked you to come in and talk about it. So I'll bring up the slideshow and then you can go through it. All right.
Okay.
Because this is you. That's not me. This is not loan today. This is all real estate. There you go. First slide. All right. And I will control the slides because I have multiple screens. He does not. All right. So how can I maximize my house listing price? And what we mean by this is if I'm going to put my house on the market, how can I get the most for my house and not overprice it? Right? We want to price it correctly so that it moves. Even in this market, if you overprice a house, it will sit there. Correct?
Absolutely. With the advent of the internet and realtor.com and even though we don't like Zillow in the industry, Zillow still at least has the listings up. Buyers are more educated than ever before. And so they know even if the house is listed $5,000 over what everything else in the neighborhood is, it'll turn them off. They probably won't look at the house. So there's a lot of ways you can justify the value that you're asking for.
Okay. So I'm going to go to the first slide for you.
Yeah.
Thought I was. Let's click it again.
Yeah.
There you go.
Most people have heard this, but curb appeal. Curb appeal is number one. The outward aesthetics of the house is definitely what draws people in initially. So obviously any kind of landscaping, make sure it's maintained. Dead grass in the summertime, absolute no. A lot of folks try and save water, but if you're trying to list your house, you want to make sure everything is just constantly maintained, and that goes for the inside. And we'll go over that later on as well.
So if you have a dead plant in the front yard, replace it and put a new plant in, right?
Yeah, pull that plant out. Fresh bark always makes everything look nice, even if you don't want to put a plant back there.
Right. I think bark that right there can make a huge difference. And I people go, what are you talking about? Just covering the mounds that the everything's growing out of can make a huge difference to the curb appeal, I think myself.
And it's cheap. So at most of the landscape places, you can get a yard of bark for $30, and a yard covers quite a bit. So most front yards are not going to take even a full yard, but you can get it delivered. You don't have to get multiple bags. It's pretty simple. You get it spread out in 30 minutes.
All right. And then also maybe like I can read here too, paint your front door. Look at your front door, see how it looks, make it look a little bit better. If the trim on your house is ugly, make it look a little bit better. Just little things can make a huge difference.
It's going to make it really stand out, make it look like you've maintained the home. Obviously, hopefully you have, but one of the first things that a pest inspection is going to be peeling paint.
Right.
And that's something you can't get away from, as we know, and an appraiser is going to call it as well.
And one of the reasons, I don't know if people know this, is peeling paint can be a problem because if the house was, pre-78 or even after that, they could potentially have lead paint, and the peeling paint's the problem. So, and then any bare wood from a lending side is an issue. So I remember when I got my house ready to sell a while back, I painted everything, the trim where I knew a dog had chewed on. That wasn't my dog. It was somebody else's, but it was chewed on. So you painted that, replaced it, that kind of stuff. It makes it nicer to where people look at it and they want it. All right. We good here?
Yeah. We can go to the next one.
This is huge.
Yes. It is. You know what? And we all live in our homes. It's very few people that live by that minimalist standard. And if they do, they just have more cabinet space to hide it.
Right.
But the biggest thing is kitchens. We have appliances and we like to use them daily. That is the number one thing to clutter your countertops. That and just everyday things that you're so used to seeing, you don't see them anymore. It could be anything from photo albums to bills that you have sitting on the counter, stuff like that. You want to remember that you want to make it look like a model home.
Right.
And you don't want to leave your personal information sitting around. So, personal pictures is the first thing that we have people remove from the house, so they don't see your family living in the house.
They want to see their own. Right?
Yeah. And then exactly. So Deep cleaning, another big one. From the ceiling fan all the way down to the baseboards. And that's something obviously you want to start a week before you even put it on the market. That's one of the last things you do.
Right. Well, you want to do that, and then you want to keep it clean too during the process after you list it, because it's important too.
Yeah,
Right.
and I can tell you about that because yesterday we went to go view a listing, and the pictures look great. We showed up. And at first I was thinking like, why has this thing been on the market 38 days? Then we go inside, and it's definitely a bachelor pad. And so this person, I'm assuming it's a man based on the shoes and everything, has decided that he only needs good pictures on the internet to sell his house. And I can see why no one's written an offer on it yet.
Because they can't, and because they expect them to look past it, and you can't always look past it. But I think the biggest issues, there's the closets, and people have some rooms where they have so much extra stuff in because they don't live in there, but they store all the stuff. Go get one of those little storage units, or get one of those pods, load it up with all the extra stuff in the house, and go drop and get it sent somewhere while your house is on the market.
Yeah, because if you hide it in a closet, believe
They'll find it.
They'll open that closet door and they'll go, aha, that's where it's all at.
Right. All right. Next. This is, I think, a very important one. If it's vacant. Yeah. Or even if you live there, you can still do this. I'm sorry. I'm talking over you. I apologize.
No, you're fine. No, staging is really huge. Obviously, a lot of the stagers are interior decorators as well. So a vacant house actually looks smaller than one with furniture because people don't have any kind of gauge, right? So if they're used to seeing like a normal size sofa and they don't see it in the living room, they can't really picture if their furniture would fit in there. Also, some of the homes we sell, I was at one yesterday where it was built in the late 60s and had some era wallpaper and features to it, and the way the stager staged it accentuated those features rather than making it look out of date. Yeah, it was. I was impressed. But yeah, 1,500 is average. Depends on the size of the house. Larger home goes all the way up to like 3,500. If you have, say, like a 5-bedroom house and like family room, living room, things like that.
But it's well worth it. So.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And obviously, for a larger home, filling it full of furniture costs more, but you're gonna get top dollar out of it.
Right. And even staging your own house that you're living in by redoing stuff, taking your family photos down, having them relook at stuff. I think it's very important.
And sometimes just moving furniture, like what's practical for our daily life doesn't necessarily look as appealing as another setup.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So low, as far as like low maintenance, obviously, we're talking about landscaping, things like that. Especially if someone's elderly, they're gonna prefer a low maintenance yard, something with a lot less lawn. And rose bushes are beautiful, but those are high maintenance plant.
And then also looking at your furnace, your water heater, or even roof, if those things need to be, if you have a water heater that's 50 years old, you might want to think about replacing it. So, because these are things they're going to look at and say, the furnace is old, the water heater is old, that roof is about ready to fail. It's a 30-year roof, but it's 27 years and there's only a couple of years left on it. So they think in their head, I got to calculate that's going to cost me like 10 grand to get a new roof. So a lot of these things, they should be looked at ahead of time, that it might be better for them to deal with now so they can get full price. Right.
Yes. And some of the things that are really obvious, people are going to look, like you said, that they're going to look at the water heater when they go out in the garage. And a lot of people say, man, that thing looks really old. And they know that say it goes out, you hire a plumber, they pull a permit, they replace it. It's $1,100 to $1,500.
Right. Even with a home warranty, it's still going to cost you some money.
Absolutely. And then the furnace, HVAC system. So like the furnace, the air handler, and the compressor, the condense unit, they're going to look at that. And if it looks old and weathered, it's going to affect your value as well.
Right. But and you also could have a company come out and service it and show that even though it looks older, it is at the top, it's still doing really well. So that way people understand you already addressed these things. What we're talking about is addressing these things ahead of time so that you don't have to worry about them during the sell.
And I can tell you, as far as appliances and HVAC equipment, some of the older stuff runs forever, and
Right.
some of the newer items you don't want new. I've seen condensing units, go as long as 40 years. Newer ones, they might make it 5, because they keep switching refrigerants and they don't last as long.
Right. I guess that's kind of the same thing. No, this is more about dual pane windows and that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, and so a lot of people think when they go to replace windows, it's a big nightmare. They got to bust out stucco. They have a whole new way of doing it where they just do a retrofit. So they actually make it slide right inside the existing frame, and they just trim around it, and then you don't have to bust out stucco or remove brick, things like that.
Right. And that's something you need to look at, because if you have 1980s or 1970 windows and you can feel the air through them, it might be worth it to upgrade it. Because a lot of people who flip homes, that's one of the first things they do. So it makes it look nicer. But you also have to look at are you going to get the cost benefit back? I think LED versus fluorescent is huge.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. And one thing that a lot of people can do is the attic insulation, adding that in, it's not that expensive, but the benefit you get from that is huge. I have a house, a 1950s house, and they have in the family room, it used to be the back patio. They enclosed it. They did it right, but it's the ceiling above it. They didn't have much insulation on it at all. They had one of those stiff boards, right? And so it would get hot in the summer and whatever. And I ended up pouring more insulation in there and covered that thing, and totally different night and day. And that's what they're talking about. These little things that you can do to make it better. Plus, people think you've taken a lot of care of your home.
And that's an easy DIY, something you could do like in a day. You can rent the machine from Home Depot, and you just feed the insulation in, it shoots it out, and you just blow it in and kind of spread it around.
Right. Get a young kid to be up there with you or something. It gets hot. Don't do it during the summer. Do it during the winter.
Yeah. Don't do it in middle of July.
Not here anyway.
No.
All right.
So smart technologies, obviously people are really getting into the smart homes. A lot of times people will ask if the security system comes with the house. If that's something you're willing to leave behind and it doesn't belong to a different company, then that's great, because it's another selling feature. One thing people don't want to have to do is go and set all that up again. So a lot of like the Ring systems are ones that you just buy outright. Think about adding that in with the purchase.
Okay. But I see here it says fire detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. You have to have them in your house if you're selling it, because those are by law. And what's funny is, not really funny, but we still run into that now, that places don't have smoke detectors. I can't even talk. Smoke detection in their bedrooms, CO2 if you have a dual, 2-story home, one upstairs in the hallway and one below. That kind of stuff. People still don't have them, or they used to have them, but they unplugged it because it was beeping, and then they put it somewhere and never put it back in.
And nowadays, smart ones, they'll even, send you a message saying, hey, it's time to change the battery, or, the battery's good for another month. Or if one of the alarms goes off, it'll send a notification to your phone.
Right. And actually, some of them are good for 10 years with the lithium batteries, and then you just get a new one.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all you're finding these days, is like the sealed lithium.
Right.
I advise that, because especially if you have like vaulted ceilings, you don't want to get a big ladder out, every 6 to 12 months to replace batteries.
No, because that's just more time for you to fall.
Yeah.
This is like a big one that if you wanted to do extra square footage, like you had something that was enclosed, that you could actually make it really enclosed and actually add more square footage. But
yeah, well, so in a lot of the older parts of Modesto, most of the houses were originally 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So over the years, a lot of folks have added a master bedroom and bathroom, which has added a lot of value.
Right. The other thing, go ahead.
I was gonna say, anyone who's lived with other people in a 1-bath, understands the value of that second bathroom.
Right. The other thing I was going to say is the older part of Modesto, some places they have basements, and you have to be careful how much you overdo the basements, right? Because you don't get the same amount of value in a basement as you do as added square footage to the house. And a lot of people understand that because it's underground and you don't get the same amount of value. It's like having a pool house or another place out back, because you're not supposed to say mother-in-law quarters anymore. I don't know if you know that. That's illegal these days.
What?
Yeah. So anyway, because other than mother-in-laws could live there. That's why.
Okay.
Yeah, some other quarters, but I'm just saying they don't get. So a lot of people think, well, they missed the square footage of the back part, that second dwelling. No, they didn't miss the square footage. It doesn't get added to the square footage of the house. It gets added as additional living area, and that's on a separate thing, kind of like a garage does. And a lot of people don't understand that. So that's why with basements, there's a certain dollar amount you'll get for it. So even if you put extra bedrooms down there, other stuff, not that most of these have enough room for that, but in some areas, you don't get the same amount of value, you get a different value. So understand that.
Yeah. And obviously around here, it's so unlikely to see like a finished basement, but I've seen some that have decent storage space, and like you could make like a playroom. Actually, I have a neighbor across the street that actually has a basement, and it's basically like the kids' playroom.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. And that's it. That was the PowerPoint.
Yeah. And there's a lot of easy ways, especially if you do the work yourself. One thing people ask me is, hey, should I remodel the kitchen? And earlier Ed had mentioned, if you have a roof that needs to be replaced, that might be a better idea than remodeling the kitchen.
Right.
Because the first thing when I go show a home is I look at the roof, make sure we don't have anything that's damaged or leaking, because that's going to cause more problems. And then I kind of look at the like the HVAC system, the water here, things that I know are going to cost a lot of money that can go out without warning.
Right.
So, so when it comes to like adding extra value by remodeling the kitchen, you might take out a percentage of buyers based on the way you remodel it.
Right.
Because nowadays everything that's popular is, like the gray vinyl plank flooring and white countertops and maybe 2 different colored cabinets, where 5 years ago everything was dark cherry. And that now that seems so out of date. It just depends on the person.
Right. And a lot of people say don't take the money that you would put into a bathroom to remodel it because somebody else might not like what you did.
Yeah.
Unless it is falling completely apart. Right. Cabinets coming off your drawers, not in, cabinets off, that kind of stuff. You need to replace that, repair that. And absolutely. I got to say, with the kitchens, deep cleaning the cabinets. Because if you have kids, sometimes those cupboards can be nasty.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing is, if you have a dishwasher that's like 10 years old or whatever, barely, just go get it. You used to be able to, since the pandemic, it's a lot harder to get a good deal on a dishwasher or stove, or if you can even get them. So,
yeah, I know it depends on which one. Like if you're not picky, you can find one, but if you want one that's going to, especially like a fridge is a specific size to fit under the cabinets you have. Yeah. You're waiting a couple months. And I have a buddy that's a manager at Lowe's, and he said he's just got a backlog of people waiting for appliances.
Yeah. And a lot of new homes, they're having that issue getting the appliances for the new homes.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's the other reason why we haven't hit our numbers for new homes this year, and it's going to be next year. We got all this issues with the pandemic and everything going forward. So
one last thing I wanted to add is, sometimes people think everything needs to be fresh and new, but I've viewed plenty of homes that were original but well maintained, and they showed really well, and people appreciated them.
Yeah, it's just having the maintenance done, things caulked, certain things like that done, that that the house has been maintained, because that's happened. Yep. So if you take the time to go through your home, just look at some of the stuff we talked about today, call Bobby. He can tell you what to do and look at it and help you out and tell you whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. The whole purpose was, one of my clients asked me about this, and I'm like, I can do a presentation on this and then just send it to them. And then here you go. Here, watch this. This is what you can do to maximize your numbers, because people want to know. And the problem is, if you Google it, you get too much information and a lot of bad information. Because I ran into where people said, go ahead and do solar. don't do solar.
No,
Don't do solar.
that's
Yeah.
the albatross. Now you just added a lease. You got to have someone take over.
Well, lease or own it, and that's the problem. A lot of the new homes, some of them don't include it in the price. You have to get it again. So if you have solar and you have a loan on solar and you have a loan on your house, you might want to look at refinancing and putting those two things together. I'm not trying to do an ad for refinancing, but if you have a solar loan and you have a house loan, you might want to think about putting those two together, because that solar interest rate is really high. And I didn't realize that until I just ran into one the other day. So if you're watching this, there you go. Give me a call.
Yeah.
Or actually instant message me through. That's the easiest to get a hold of me, through Messenger. Bobby, thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much, Ed.
And everybody, thanks for watching, and we appreciate it. And we'll be back next week.
All right. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
You too, sir. All right. Bye.